the Circus Hub, and I'm going to be taking you for a juggling and manipulation class. So, hopefully you've got something you can juggle. You could either have some juggling balls, or if you haven't got anything like that at home, you might have something else that you could use. You can always use some fruit, like an orange is a good one, not something that's going to smash on the floor, or another one. So you can get some pairs of socks. If you fold them up neatly, you can make a nice little ball. It's a great little thing to juggle. So we're doing a whole series of online classes, so you can check out our website to find a whole bunch of other classes, such as classes for kids, families, handstands, circus fit, to make sure you're staying in shape for when we get back to our proper circus program. So I'm just going to show you guys what we're going to be going through today. So first of all, just to warm up, we're going to have a look at how to tidy up your cascade. That's the basic juggling pattern. Then we're going to have a look at some tricks with the over the top or reverse cascade throw and under the arm. And these are going to be essential building blocks for working towards the Mills mess. After that, we'll have a look at some 4-ball drills for you to work on your 4-ball pattern. And then we'll have a look at some contact juggling using an orange. And then finally, a little bit of creative fun with teacup and tea bag juggling. But before we get into our juggling, I think it's best if we just do a quick warm-up to make sure that our arms and our neck are nice and limber. So if you just want to grab the back of your neck, squeeze that nice and tight, and we're going to nod our head up and down. Like, yes, I'm very excited for some juggling. So just turn on my side lighting to try and be well illuminated. Okay, we can shake our head from side to side. And then we can just roll our head from side to side. And then if you push your palm down towards the ground, to try and get a nice good stretch in there. And the other side. Okay, now just make sure you've got enough room around you that you're not going to hit anything. We're going to just do some big arm circles to get our arms nice and warm. And then keep our arms straight out to the side and do some little circles. Then hands on our shoulders, rolling our elbows forwards. And then just rolling our shoulders forwards. And now backwards. So we'll roll our shoulders backwards. Now try and think about your posture when you're doing this, because your posture is going to be really important in your juggling. So make sure your feet are planted about shoulder width apart, and you've got your weight evenly distributed on them. So we're rolling our shoulders back, and then we'll go hands on our shoulders, rolling our elbows back. And then straight arms. Nice big circles. And then little circles with your palms out. And now a little coordination one. So we're going to bring our hand up in front of our face. Bring it around behind our head. Bring it up straight. And I want you to let it drop down to the side and let it swing back up to your face. And you can repeat that. So, in front of the face, behind the head, down to the side. I've heard this one described as check your face in the mirror and flick your ponytail. That helps you think about it. And then try that with the other hand. So, your hand comes up in front of your face, round behind your head, up straight, let it drop down, and repeat. Now, if you feel like you're getting the hang of that, we're going to try and do both arms. So first, we'll just do one arm, then the other. Then I want you to start just combining that together so your other hand will follow a bit closer behind. And feel free to use the YouTube chat to message me anything. Let me know if what props you've got at home, what things you want to juggle. So today we are mainly focusing on balls because I'm not sure what juggling props people have at home. So if you do have other things that you want lessons with that you do have at home, please let me know in the chat. All right, I've just been told I'm a bit quiet when I'm standing away from the laptop, so I'll try and give detailed instructions and then go back and show you what I mean. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is tidying up our cascade. So the cascade is your basic juggling pattern. So depending where you're at, some of you might have a really good cascade, some of you might not be able to juggle. So I will go over some of the fundamentals for those of you who are new to juggling. But for those of you who can juggle, it's always good to practice these things in order to tidy up your juggling pattern. So I'll just give you a quick demo of a cascade. So there's two things I want you to look at. One is how high I'm throwing the balls and where I'm throwing the balls at. And then, so we'll have a look at that. So you want your juggling pattern to be about eye level and you want to throw across. So this hand will throw across to this peak here and my other hand will throw across to a peak over here. But when you're just starting out, I think the first thing you really want to focus on is what your hands are doing. So I want you to look at the shape that my hands are traveling in. So hopefully you can see my hands are traveling in circles. So that's what we're going to do to start with, is just have a look at that with one hand. So I want you to start with the ball out to the side. Your hand's going to scoop down and throw from in front of your belly button. So every time I'm throwing the ball, it comes from in front of my belly button, and I'm always catching it kind of on the outside. So take a minute to practice that. I want you to really focus on that hand movement, letting that hand come down before you throw up. A common thing that people do is they will just catch the ball and throw it straight back. But when you do that, when you have more than one ball, that's when the balls can crash into each other. Now, if you're watching this after I did it, so not live, you can always take a minute to pause it now to practice that throw. But for those of you who can, let's move on to two balls. So now two balls is probably the best pattern you can practice to improve your three ball cascade. And all I want you to do is this. So that's just two cascade throws, bringing your hand down, throwing in front of your stomach. You want to throw the second ball when the first ball is at its highest point. But you don't want to wait to start throwing it until it's there, because then that's when people do this and do a panic throw. What I want you to think about this is, as soon as you're releasing the first ball, the second hand starts to move down. So by the time the first ball has traveled to the peak, your hand has traveled down and it's ready to throw the ball and then move back round to catch the second ball, the first ball you threw. It's also really important that you practice throwing from both hands first. So right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right. If you only ever do right, left, when you introduce the third ball, you haven't trained that muscle memory yet. Now, I want you guys to remember that this is always the best way to learn a new trick as well. I want to try and teach you this technique. So it's always practice with one ball first, introduce the second ball before you move on to three. That's going to be the same thing for some of the other tricks that we try soon. So take another minute to practice that. You want to get really comfortable with this. This is definitely the pattern that if you're just learning to juggle, you're far better spending a lot of time practicing this with just two balls before you worry about three, because it's all about training that muscle memory to throw the ball to the same place every time is really going to make it easier for you in the long run. Because when you move to three, you have a lot less time, you're under a lot more pressure to catch the ball, and it's more important to practice the correct technique than to be moving around all over the place. But yeah, so now just have a quick look at our 3-ball technique. You want to start with 2 balls, or actually, let's have a quick look. For those of you who are new to juggling, I'll give you another little 2-ball pattern you can practice. So we need to look at how you hold 2 balls in one hand. So I'll be holding the blue ball with my little finger and my ring finger. That then allows me to have these 3 fingers free to catch the other ball. So you can practice that, just catching. And that's going to be the ball that I throw as well, that one from the little claw. So you can practice that. Then what you can do is throw the green one first, and then the blue one to the other hand. Now see, when I catch it, I'll catch it comfortably with my whole hand, but then I'll move it to here so I can catch the second ball. So you can practice just doing that from hand to hand. Then, once you get the hang of that, you can get it to flow like the previous drill we'd done with 2 balls. So you throw one across, do the right-left throw, come back to catching 2 in one hand. And you can practice that from both sides. So I'd suggest spending a lot of time practicing those 2 drills with 2 balls before you move on to 3. When you go on to 3, what you want to focus on to start with is just doing 3 throws and trying to catch them all. And if you've put the time into practicing catching 2 balls on both sides, hopefully that should be nice and easy for you. So there's a quick summation of your cascade, and hopefully for those of you who can already juggle, there's some good advice in there for you how to tidy up your pattern. Cool, just keeping an eye on my messages in case I'm getting any messages coming through from those of you watching at home. Keeping an eye on my messages in case I'm getting any messages coming through. Cool, so yeah, so you need some, yeah. Hey Alexandra, hopefully you've got some juggling balls or at least some pairs of socks. Make do juggling balls if you haven't got anything like that at home. Good to see you there. Okay, cool. So next, moving on to some different throws. Now this is great. You can practice these throws even if you can't do a cascade yet. It's always the best to practice with one ball. And it's really a good way to keep juggling interesting when you're starting out. If you can't do a cascade yet, there's still heaps of really interesting throws you can learn. So then by the time you do get your 3-ball cascade down, you've already got a bunch of tricks that you can start trying to work into it a lot sooner than if you've just spent all of your time working on a 3-ball cascade. So, like I said at the start, I'll just bring that back up actually so we can all see. We're going to have a look at the over the top throw and under the arm. So I picked these to work on today because these are key fundamental building blocks for trying to get Mills Mess, which is a great juggling trick. I'll just show you quickly. It's one that you've probably seen a lot where you're crossing your arms while juggling. So it's a really lovely juggling trick. It's quite complicated, but if you break it down into simple steps, anyone can learn it. So, but the fundamental tricks that you need for that is an over-the-top throw or reverse cascade and under the arm. So, first of all, let's have a look at our over-the-top throw. So, our cascade throw came from the outside, throwing in front of our belly button. We're going to do this throw the opposite way. So we're going to start in front of our belly button, come to the outside, and throw and catch in the middle. So we're going to come back to the middle when we catch it. So our hand comes down to the outside, throws it back to the middle. So it's just the same shape, but doing it in reverse. That's why it's called a reverse cascade. If you can get that to flow, it should travel in that nice sort of figure 8 pattern there, like a cascade, just in reverse. So, let's have a look then at trying that with 2 balls. Now, there's lots of variations that you could do with this, with just 2 balls. So first of all, let's try doing one normal throw and one reverse cascade throw. Or you could try doing both throws like a reverse cascade throw. Once again, this is important to practice from both sides, but once you start to get the hang of this throw, you can try and put it into your 3-ball pattern, and there's a lot of different patterns this can give you. So, I'll just try and do one to start with. So that's one throw over the top. Now, I'm going to pick the blue ball this time, and if I do it from both sides and make it go back and forward, that pattern's called tennis. Another way you could do that is if every right hand throw is over the top, that's going to give you a pattern called a half shower. And then finally, if you do all your throws as outside throws or reverse cascade throws, you're going to be doing a reverse cascade. So I want you to take a bit of time now to just practice that over the top throw. And then you can practice it with 2 balls. either doing a cascade throw and an over the top, or 2 over the top throws. And then we've got those 3 patterns that you can practice. You can do tennis, so one ball is going over the top, back and forward. Half shower, so all your throws from one hand go over the top. And then reverse cascade, so both hands are throwing over the top throws. So take a minute to just practice that, try and get comfortable, and I'll check if I've got any more messages from those of you at home watching live. Oh yeah, Alex, so there's lots of things you can work on with 2 balls. So like I was saying, we've got 2 reverse cascade throws, or if you're still just working on your juggling pattern, we've got these 2 cascade. You can just work on your cascade, or you can start with 2 balls in one hand, like I showed you just before, holding one with your pinky finger and index finger, and then you've got these 3 fingers free for the other one. Throw across, catch it just like that. So always catch it first, move it to there, and then you can catch it with the other 3 fingers. So if you want, take a quick water break. Remember, you can check out a bunch of other classes on the Circus Hub website. We've got handstands, circus fit, and we've got classes for family, kids, stretch, all sorts of things. And remember, you can watch this again later online on our website, so you can always pause it and work on some of these tricks and come back. So, moving on to the second new throw that I wanted to show you to help working towards Mills Mess is our over the top throw. So, we've just done over the top with our reverse cascade, is like our over the top throw. The second one that I wanted to work on is under the arm. So, when you're starting with your under the arm throw, what's important is you want to keep your other arm in place, and the hand with the ball travels across under it and throw it under that arm. So if you just throw the ball straight up, once again, we always want to keep the ball going up to about eye level. It should just arc back in to our hand. So I want you to spend a minute just practicing that throw to start with. Even if you can do this one, it's always good to just try and put some time into it to try and tidy it up. Remember, for now, we don't want the empty hand to be traveling across in front of us. We want to keep that hand where it is. Now, that might change a little bit when I introduce you to Mills Mess. But for now, try and keep that hand where it is. Move across under it. Now, if you're getting the hang of that, once again, going from 1 ball to 2 ball. Now I'm going to show you how, when we're practicing with 2 balls, there's actually 2 really important different ways we can practice this by doing a normal cascade throw and our new under the arm throw. So the first one is going to be, we are going to do our under the arm throw first. So this hand is going to do under the arm, it's going to come under there. I'm going to do a normal cascade throw before I catch it. Once again, it's important to always keep this nice and high, and you throw the second ball when the first one is around its highest point. And try and keep that hand where it is. So So that was doing our under the arm throw first. So think of that as that's the new trick throw, doing it first. So practice that for a bit. So even if you're just starting out, it's great to practice these under the arm throws. Even if you ever, and remember, if you're ever struggling with one step, it's always best to go back a step. So if you're finding two balls with this quite hard, go back to practicing your under the arm throw just with one ball until you get that to be second nature. That's one of the things with juggling. You always want to practice it enough so you can do these throws without having to think about it too hard. Okay, so now the second way that you can practice any new throw, so an underarm throw, is this time we're going to try and we'll do our normal cascade throw first and do the under the arm throw second. So remember before we were going under the arm first, cascade throw. This time I'm going to do cascade throw, then under the arm. So this is just like when you're learning your cascade, you always want to go right, left, left, right. Whenever you're learning a new trick, it's really good practice to do the trick throw first, and then practice doing the cascade throw first, then the trick throw. And ideally, you want to get all of these throws working well enough that you can just do it so it flows. So take a minute to practice both of those variations. Okay, and now let's just have a look at the under the arm throw with 3 balls. So I'm going to do the under the arm throw with the blue ball. So that's it with the right hand and the left hand. And then just trying to do the blue ball repeatedly. I'll show you that one again, and I want you to look at how the blue ball kind of travels like a U on the outside. That's going to be an important thing to be aware of for our Mills mess throw. The blue ball is traveling on the outside in a U shape. Cool. So hopefully this isn't going too fast for all of you. Let me know if you need any help with any of these. But I know this is going to be recorded, so even if you struggle with it now, I want to give you this information so you can come back and reference this video later when you start getting the hang of it. So just before we move on to learning about the Mills mess, here's another step that's going to help us. That is a combination of these 2 throws that we've just learned, our under the arm throw and our reverse cascade. So if I do a reverse cascade throw with one hand and an underarm throw with the other hand, you can get a pattern called a windmill. And on the other side, now remember, I don't expect you to be picking these tricks up just like that. These things will take a bit of practice, but if you put a bit of time into it and break all of these things down step by step, it makes it a lot easier. So, if you're wanting to learn this one, once again, practice it with two balls. So you're going to do an over the top throw and an under the arm throw. So that's the over the top throw first, and then under the arm. And it is definitely worth trying to do this on both sides. Need to tidy that one up. So yeah, with that you could either do under the arm first and then over the top, or you could do over the top first, followed by the under the arm. Practicing both of those will make it a lot easier when you try and go for 3 balls. So, if you are still needing to practice just your over the top throw or your under the arm throw, spend some time doing that. So, under the arm with a cascade throw. And if that starts to feel comfortable, you can work on that, changing it to that over the top throw, the reverse cascade. So remember the difference is cascade throw comes from in front of our belly button, reverse cascade or over the top goes from in front of our belly button to the outside. So now, if your brain's getting a bit mixed up, that's fine. We have been focusing for a long time. Hopefully you've taken some water breaks, but just a little quick thing that can always be good to reset your brain. Here's a fun little exercise that should help with our Mills mess as well. So what I want you to try and do is just hold one ball. You're going to have your arms crossed. And what I'm going to want you to do is to drop the ball and then move the hand under the other arm to catch it. Or to actually probably want to do a little throw to start with. And you can do that back up. So that's a fun little exercise just to get you doing something different from what you've been focusing on. Try and reset that brain a little bit. So just practice that for a minute. I just want to give everyone a chance to have a break, get their brain reset before we go on to some of the really trickier stuff with Mills mess. Also, judging from the time, I don't think I'll be able to get through all of Mills mess today, but I think that's it's a big step for a lot of people. So I might just look at introducing some of the throws for Mills mess before we worry about trying to put them together. So if I just give you some of the throws with one ball for you to practice, if you practice them next week, if we have a look at Mills mess again, then you'll be hopefully have them nice and solid, and it'll make it a lot easier for you. So yeah, the key things you'll want to be practicing for Mills mess is your reverse cascade throws, or over the tops, and your under the arm throws. And now I'm going to give you a tricky one, which is a cross arm throw. So if you can master this one, that's going to be one of the really key things to learning Mills Mess. So we're going to start with our arms crossed over. The hand with the ball is the hand on top. We're going to do kind of like a reverse cascade throw. So we're throwing from the outside towards the middle. Now while the ball is in the air, we're going to cross our arms over so we can catch the ball in the other hand. So we're going to do a throw to the middle. Without the ball, it's worth practicing this, is swapping which hand's on top. So trying to get this really comfortable. So then, when you've got the ball, it's going to be, you're always catching it with the top hand, but you're going to swap which hand's on top. Once again, it's definitely important to practice this one with both hands because Mills Mess is a two-sided trick. You need to be able to do it on both sides. So this is a cross arm throw, a really important one to practice. So yeah, that one will definitely take you a bit of time, a bit of concentration to get your head around. But just remember, it's always the hand on top that catches, and you're going to swap which hand's on top. So that's throw one. Make sure you spend a lot of time practicing that one if you want to get Mills Mess. Now I'm going to switch to a green ball just to show you it's a different one. Now our second throw that I want you to practice to try and get Mills Mess is it's going to be a reverse cascade throw. So that's why we had to spend some time practicing that. So make sure you've got that nice and solid. Because what we're going to do is from our arms being open, we're going to do a reverse cascade throw. And then this hand that's going to catch it, we're going to cross our arms over and it's going to be the bottom hand. So a reverse cascade throw, cross your arms to catch it in the bottom arm. Open up, reverse cascade throw, catch it on the bottom. So now remember, I'm going through these quite quickly in this class. You will need to spend a lot of time working on these tricks individually. I don't expect you to master them in the amount of time I've given you now, but these are the things that you can practice throughout the week. And I should also point out that your juggling practice it's always better to do a little bit each day rather than just doing 1 hour on one day. But if you just even do 10 minutes a day, every day, that's going to be a lot better. It's going to really help those connections in your brain to your arms come together. So let's just go over that throw a couple more times. So from open arms, a reverse cascade throw, cross your arms and catch with the bottom arm. So remember, this is you're catching in the other hand. That's true for all of these throws for Mills Messes. You're always catching with the other hand. So uncross, uncross for the throw, catch under. So this is a reverse cascade throw. All right, so just to go over it, we've got our first throw, the cross arm throw, top hand catches, crossing your arms. Our second throw, reverse cascade, catching on the bottom hand. And now, I'm going to have to use the orange because I haven't got a third coloured ball. Third throw is going to be a under the arm throw and catch with the top hand. So this is just slightly different from our under the arm throw where we're bringing our arms back. This time we're just keeping our arms crossed. And try and practice those nice big hand movements. Oh, whoops, I mixed that one up. So under the arm, on top. Under the arm, on top. So if you can practice all three of those throws before next week, we can try and get them really comfortable. Then we can try and put them together for Mills Mess. All right, let's take another quick water break. Okay, I'll show you what Mills Mess is again, Alexandra, but it is a quite advanced trick. So it's where your arms are crossing and you want the balls to be traveling in like a figure of 8. Oh. So you're wanting all the balls to be traveling, following each other. Cool, so get a little drink. Now, if we just go back to our class plan. So that was looking at Mills Mess. So I've given you some steps for that. Now, if anyone's wanting to learn 4 balls, that's really a good one to work on, nice and once you've got your cascade. And that's one that you can work on with just 2 balls. So, there's a few different ways that you can do 4 balls, but we're just going to look at one today, and that's called a fountain. So, that's when you're doing 4 balls, generally you're always doing 2 balls in one hand and 2 balls in the other hand. Now, the fountain is when you're throwing the balls in a circle, as opposed to columns where they might be going straight up and down. But we're going to look at a fountain throw, and we're going to be doing it out. So, you can practice this with one ball first, as your hand comes towards the middle, and you're going to throw to the outside. That's where you're going to catch it. So you want to be imagining a nice circle shape that the ball's traveling in. So now, if you can do that with one ball, you can see if while that ball's in the air, you're going to need to throw a second ball. So this is going to need to be a bit higher than your eyes. Like the 3 ball cascade is here. 4 ball, you want a little bit higher. Oh. So you can practice while that ball's in the air. See if you have time to do another circle with your hands. And that's where the second ball would be. Then when you're feeling comfortable, you can try that with 2 balls. So just try and do 2 throws to start with. Now, things to be aware of is it can be good once you're starting to get the hang of this, is you need to remember that when you're doing 4 balls, you're going to have your second hand out there as well. So it's no good if you're throwing right across your body right over here, because that's where your other arm's going to be. Likewise, if you're turning out really wide and juggling out here, your other arm's not going to be getting attention. So a good way to practice that is while you're practicing these throws with one hand, hold your other arm out in front of you and still move that in a circle as if you're doing throws with it. That will help you build that coordination as well, that you know that other hand needs to be moving while you're doing this. Now make sure that you're practicing this on the other hand. I would actually recommend starting to practice this on your dominant hand first. So every time you practice, start with your less dominant hand. So for me, that's my left hand. So if I do a bunch of throws, so say there's lots of other ways you can vary up your juggling practice. So it can be good to give yourself a number. So say you want to do 20 throws with your left hand first. Before you do it, try and do it with 2 balls. So there'd be 2 throws. So you could do 20 throws with 1 ball in your left hand, then do 20 throws with 2 balls in your left hand. And they don't have to be continuous throws. They could just be 1, 2, catch. 1, 2, catch. And as you get better and can put more time into it, I'd recommend increasing that number. Other ways that you could vary your juggling is you could do things to a time limit. Find it a lot easier to practice something for say 2 minutes when I set a timer than if I just try and do it for a while. And it can also help if you track your juggling, so we can have a look at that. If that's something that you'd like, I can look at making up some spreadsheets for you to be able to use to track your juggling, or show you different ways of tracking your juggling process. So if that is something that interests you, just leave a message about that on the YouTube channel. Okay, so then now remember, you don't have to master all of this while you're watching this live. You can practice this later. So I do want to just go over the next steps for juggling 4 balls. So if you can do 2 balls in one hand and 2 balls in the other hand, a good way to practice this is with 3 balls. So going from your cascade and trying to go into 2 balls in one hand, back to your cascade, and then 2 balls in the other hand. So I'll give that a go. And the last thing I just wanted to show you about this fountain is this: when you do try this with 4 balls, there's 2 different ways you can do it. And I think it's really important to practice both of them. They are synchronized and asynchronized, or sort of refer them to sync or async. So synchronized is you'd be doing both hands at the same time, or async is like off time. So you do one hand then the other. And it's that one I definitely found a bit easier to start with, but it's really important to be able to do it synchronized as well. And that's really good for letting you, helping you get your throws to be the same height. So I'll show you synchronized first. And then async. And then once you can do both of those, there's a whole world of tricks that opens up to you where you can try and switch between the 2. I should have warmed this one up. Cool. So let's let's leave that toss juggling there. There's a lot of time. So if you've made it through all of that in one go, I salute you. That's really good work. But hopefully I've given you lots of information there that you can always come back to this video and practice different parts of it to help you along on your juggling journey. But now let's have a look at something a little bit different, just to be silly. Let's have a look at a little bit of contact juggling, so some manipulation. Now, I know a lot of you don't have a contact ball. If you haven't seen a contact ball before, there, I'll just show you. They're these kind of crystal ball looking balls. You might have seen them in The Labyrinth with David Bowie, where Michael Motion was actually behind David Bowie, just his arms there, looking at a TV screen and able to learn that. But I just wanted to give you something different to work on with these. So let's have a look at isolations. So an isolation is where you try and make the ball, or in this case orange, look like it's staying in the same place. So I want you to start with it facing out towards this screen or the audience, and then your hand can come up over the top, down to the side, back to the start. Over the top, down to the side, back to the start. So that's the basic movement that you're doing. But in order to make it look good, you have to try and make the orange stay in the same place. So what I want you to do is to don't look directly at the orange, look past it at an object in the distance, and so you go up, over to the side, back to the start, up, down to the side, back to the start. And if you're looking at that object in the distance, you can start to tell when the object is moving up and down, and you need to start to make adjustments with your elbow and shoulder and hand in order to try and keep that in the same place. Now, that's when it looks a lot nicer with a contact ball, but it's still a nice fun trick to practice with something like an orange. So you can practice that with both sides, and just a couple other tricks that I'll give you that you can play with the ice cream scoop. So if you hold your hand in a fist, place the object on top, you're going to come in with a flat hand and try and scoop that up on your pinky. And you reclose your fist under it. So as you can see when it's moving with the orange, but if you practice it, get it nice and smooth, then if you ever get a nice smooth contact ball, it can make a great little illusion. And there's loads of different variations that you can play with once you start to get the hang of this. Alright, grab a quick drink of water. You can spend a lot more time playing with that stuff as well. I just had one more thing that I wanted to introduce to you to have a little play with while we're stuck inside. So I know not everyone has juggling props just lying around their house, so I thought I'd show you some fun stuff that we can do with some normal everyday objects. So if you've got a teacup and a tea bag, just check. There's these two simple everyday objects. There's a whole range of things that you could do that are great fun to just have a play around while we're stuck. I'm sure a lot of you are drinking a lot of tea, so why not have some fun playing with it? So first thing is you can just practice throwing from your hand the tea bag into the cup. And then you can throw it back up. Nice and simple. But then this is where you can start to practice some of those other tricks that we've been doing with our juggling. So you could do an under the arm throw. And then you could do a reverse cascade. Oh. So as you can see, the tea bag flies a bit funny. So it does take a little bit of getting used to. And your tea bag might be a different shape. Might have a string with a little bit of cardboard on the end. So it's all just going to be playing around with your objects to see what you can do with them. But so we've got from hand to cup. And I want you to introduce you. You can throw from the cup and catch it back in the cup. And once again, this is where you could do stuff with under the arm, back in, or you could even use other body parts. So under the leg. And you can play with whether it's from your hand to the cup, from the cup to your hand, or cup to cup. Now, if you guys want a really tricky one to practice doing a nice straight throw up from your cup. And then we're going to try it in around the world. So, while the tea bag's in the air, you're going to move the cup all the way around, catch it back in there. This is where you want to be able to do a nice straight throw, because you've got to get that nice throw before you go around. If you try and start moving around before it's gotten all that you've done a nice throw, it's just going to go flying. So let's see if I can get this one first go. So nice, really concentrating that nice straight throw. So you move your hand quickly, stop it, so the momentum will keep the tea bag coming up. Now you might need to throw it a bit higher to get used to it to start with. But cool. And then just a couple more silly ones that we can do. This is a nice fun one that you can do with like a tea bag. So if we just start with on the top, we're going to throw, try and scoop in and catch it. And if you want to practice that, you can practice throwing onto there first. And then, so you throw it up and you've got to scoop round. Now make sure you're not going to hit anything while you're trying this. But there you go. You could have a lot of fun playing with this. And you could have a whole little routine that you can do with your tea bag before you make your morning cup of tea. Just make sure you use nice hot boiling water if you do drop it on the ground. No, actually, I have this practice tea bag. I don't think I'm going to make a cup of tea out of this. But it's just a little way to have some fun with those little everyday tasks that you do. When you're making your cup of tea, you can have a bit of fun playing around with it. Just be careful with your cup. You don't want to drop that on the ground and smash it. So if you've got a cup, a plastic cup, a metal cup, something like that, you can have a lot more fun playing with that. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this juggling class. Please feel free to give us any feedback on whether you want things, me to go over things. Like, do you want some more focus on beginner stuff? I don't know who's watching out there. Are you a beginner juggler? Or do you want harder tricks? Would you want to look at some more 4-ball tricks? Do you want to look at how you might work towards learning 5 balls? Or have you got a Diablo at home and you want to do some Diablo stuff? Have you got some juggling clubs? Or do you want to learn how to juggle the wooden spoons in your kitchen? Yeah, so just please let me know. Yeah, practice those tricks. So remember, you've got your under the arm throw, your reverse cascade. For the Mills mess, there's the cross arm throws. There's the reverse cascade, catching on the bottom hand. And then there's the under the arm throw. So if you do want to try and learn Nils Mess, put some time into practicing those next week, and then we'll look at the next step of actually trying to put that all together. But yeah, I hope you've had fun. Remember, you can check out all of our other circus classes that are up online, and there will be more happening next week. So thank you very much for watching. We really appreciate you inviting us into your homes in this time to still stay connected to the Circus Hub. So thank you very much. I've been Michael, and I'll catch you next week.